Hey there, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Um, it's interesting. This morning I woke up and I instantaneously went into a place of stress, a place of just a little bit of frustration and all this different stuff coming up, and just a feeling of almost a lost feeling, you could say. And I had good things happen as I was waking up, of course, but I just woke up in this place of just really feeling lost and overwhelmed, and my eyes weren't even open yet. I hadn't even stretched. I hadn't even contemplated waking up, really. And it was like the weight of the world just came down on me, and it was just right there. Fast forward a little bit to when I got my coffee, and I'm making my coffee, and I'm standing there and I'm talking to the coffee pot like I do every day, asking God, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? And nothing was coming in. Absolutely nothing was coming in. And I just thought, what the heck? Is this going to be one of those talks where I'm talking about stillness, about silence, about getting, into this space of the centered space where there is really nothing, but there is everything? I kind of got frustrated and overwhelmed at that thought, because I'm going, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to talk about this morning. And then I rounded through my living room, around my couches, past my bookcases, and I had this thought to look at this one shelf. So I stopped and I looked at this one shelf, and a book that I read back when I was maybe 19, 20 years old just kind of popped out on the shelf at me. And it was Robert Schuller. I love Robert Schuller. He wrote a fantastic book way back called Tough Times Never Last, but Tough People Do. And a whole bunch of why do bad things happen to good people, I think, is another one of the books that he wrote. I've read most of his books, but those were not the books that popped off the shelf. The book that popped off the shelf was Tough-Minded Faith for Tender-Hearted People. And I pulled it off the shelf, and I didn't even bother to open it. I just looked at the book, and I thought, Tough-Minded Faith for Tender-Hearted People. And I feel so tender-hearted right now. And everything that is going on in my world over the last few months, and especially the last couple weeks, is pretty much summed up in the title of that book. That what we have to do in tough times, so that the tough times don't get us. Hey, good morning, Addison. Morning, Steve. Morning, Michael. The things that we have to do is really to have tough-minded faith. And it is in that moment almost a mind over matter thing, not even anything else, but that we are going to commit to having faith, to having that tough-minded faith, which means certainty. And in that certainty, in that tough-minded faith, in those steps, we may hear our egos yell at us. We may get opinions from a million and one sources. And none of it matters. Absolutely none of it matters. The only thing that matters is that tough-minded faith, that certainty, that drive that we're going to lean in. We're going to lean in to God's guidance. We're going to lean in to that presence, to that guidance, to that flow, and find that space to tap into. And it's a really fucking hard thing to do. It really, really is. I can tell you that my ego has been on so much fire the last couple weeks. I cannot even believe the things that my ego has been coming up with. I'm meeting a completely different side of myself almost every single day. With all the stress and the this and the that that's going on, I feel a great sense of overwhelm. At the same time, when I really, really lean in, and I'm going to call it leaning in, because it's that leaning into the presence of God. It is that leaning into the faith of knowing that at the end of the day, God does have our back. The universe does have our back. That it really is just getting into that alignment, getting into that flow, and leaning in is all about listening. So that tough-minded faith is not necessarily about action. It's not necessarily about going to church and getting down on your knees and praying. It's not about anything like that. It's about a space inside of ourselves where we lean into and we listen. And we listen into that space and we find that faith and we go into that moment, into that almost like a cavern within inside of ourselves where everything is available and yet there's nothing there, which is what I was greeted with at the coffee pot, right? The coffee pot. I'm standing there and I'm trying to get into like, oh God, what do you want me to talk about this morning? And what was I greeted with? I was greeted with silence. I was greeted with just this nothing except for my coffee pot making its noises and my coffee dripping out. In that silence, there is everything that we can possibly want. All the answers are there. Everything comes from that space of silence. It is in that silence that we find peace. And when we find peace, we are presented with the opportunity to now make a conscious decision as to which direction in our emotional scale, in our frequency scale, in our manifestation scale, that we truly want to go. Peace is this place where we make the choice to either focus in on positive and increase our vibration, or focus in on negative and have our vibration drop down. But until we can lean into that space of peace, which only comes from listening, which only comes from going into that cavern of nothing that has everything at the same time, right? That tough-minded faith. That's what we're walking through the doorway of. We walk through that threshold, and that is where we find the peace. That is where we're given the opportunity to do what we want to do with our lives. We can make that choice to just kind of like have life do this back and forth and it just flow and all that stuff. You can believe that that's flow. That's not flow. That's you making a decision to just let everything else take you. And in that taking, you're making the decision to be taken, to just not, to be more of a victim mindset. When we look into the cavern and we step into that space, we lean into the presence of God. What we do is we now make the conscious decision to consciously continue to choose what direction we're going. Yesterday I had a house full of people. Actually, for like the last couple of weeks, I've had a house full of people. My house has been ranging with a lot of people. All my family, all my children are back from Hawaii. I'm going to be a grandmother. Woo, Kendall's a grandmother. There's my grand announcement. I'll probably write an article or something on it later once I really tap into my space of peace sometime this week and get my clarity. But last night I had friends over and there's a lot of good conversation, a lot of sharing of energy, of love, connection. And there was this one moment when all I could hear rising up inside of me was be in silence and in peace. Be in silence and of peace. And I found myself saying a little prayer as these words just went through me. And I had no reason in that moment. I mean, my house was not wild and crazy. It was actually very quiet in that moment. But I found myself really feeling that message. Be in silence and in peace. And I think that the message there, when we want to have tough-minded faith, and we're so tender-hearted, right? We don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want to get it wrong. We're concerned about everybody else's feelings. We're concerned about the end result. We're concerned about all this different stuff. We don't want to hurt. We're fearful that God doesn't have our back. It's that moment, the only way we can actually lean into God and find that peace is to go into silence. to be in silence, to just find that moment where there is really nothing going on. My awakening for last night, my realization, you could say, was that I have not taken enough time over the last few weeks to go into silence and find that peace. And thus, I find myself in chaos and overwhelm and waking first thing in the morning with my ego right there going, hello, good morning, let's get right to this. Here's our list. Here's our agenda of shit things today to do, to focus in on. And that's not like me, because I normally always go into silence to find my peace. So, I'm not going to make this conscious coffee a great big long one by any means. What I am going to do is I'm going to suggest that everybody who watches this conscious coffee takes a moment, not just a moment, but maybe 15 minutes of a moment to find that silence, to tap into that peace so that you can have that tough-minded faith no matter what presents itself. When we go into that space of stillness, whether you call it prayer, you call it meditation, it doesn't matter what you title it, but to take just 15 minutes to go into that space and tap into God, tap into your core, tap into that inner being right here, get into that alignment where there is no doubt, where there is no fear, where that tough-mindedness becomes certainty. Thank you, Addison. Thank you, Michael, for your comments there. But to really just go into that space and find that peace. Because when you find that, remember that once you feel that peace, once you feel it, decide. Now it's a decision. It's just a decision for you. Just a decision to make. Are we focusing in on positive? Are we focusing in on negative? Is my glass half full or is my glass half empty? Are the things that are presenting themselves true? Or is it just a perception of what I think they are? Remember that our perceptions are not always reality. Other people's perceptions of us are not reality, and our perceptions of others are not reality. Always, always, always ask for the truth. Always question that. And lean into that space and decide what you want. How do you want to experience your day? Experience this moment. What do you want to draw into your life? We are all very powerful manifestors. And when we manifest, we have to be cautious of what we're thinking, what we're focusing in on, which means what is the vibration, what is the emotion that we are bringing into our manifestation pool. Are we manifesting from a place of anger, a place of hatred, a place of stress, overwhelm, fear, ego? Or are we manifesting from a place of love and gratitude and certainty? The decision's ours, every single one of us. But we can only truly make that decision by clearing out every other opinion that is presenting itself to us, because everything's going to do that, and tapping into silence and peace. So, there you go. That's my message of this morning. That's exactly what I'm going to go and find a moment to go do before I tackle all the 1, 2, 3s of my day. Before I really get focused on that stuff, I'm finding my silence to find my peace. And I know what my decision is on what I want to choose for my day, what I want to manifest into my day. I want to manifest greatness. I want to manifest that fuck yes life. I want to manifest love, abundance, connection, blessing. I want to call down the blessings. And I hope you do too. If you want to learn more about some of the things that I teach, about courses that I have, which I'm always running a course here and there, but I have some fantastic online courses. I do have workshops coming up locally in the DFW area as well. You can check out my website, of course, but I do have a fantastic Fuck Yes Life training, which is a free training that you can go ahead and do. You're going to see that pinned to this conscious coffee right here. It is free right now, so please access that. In there you are going to get all my daily practices that I do to keep myself in that state of awareness, in that state of constantly choosing the path that I want, instead of allowing life to take me, instead of allowing myself to, my ego to make me believe that I am a victim to anything or that I don't have a decision. There are certain steps that you can do to guarantee that you are being a conscious creator and that you are able to create that fuckiest life that you want. So enjoy that course, sign up today, look for other things to come out. And as always, stop existing and start living. And I will catch you guys tomorrow morning for another conscious coffee. Bye, guys. As soon as my phone figures out that I don't want to be on here anymore.